Are you ready to go, Greg?
I'm ready.
He's always ready. Born ready.
Headphones on, mic in front of my snout. I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that Mike, get away from his snout? Are you aware that we're on?
I was born aware.
Yep.
I came out of the womb. I'm like, what's next? Who needs me? Let's go. I was snapping my fingers at 2 minutes old.
I believe that, actually.
I was. I don't waste any time.
A newborn saying, "Who needs me?"
When I'm coming into the
Snapping
studio,
his fingers.
I am ready to fly, man. I'm ready to go.
A baby's voice singing "King of the Road."
Hey, baby, and I meant it literally. That kind of thing.
He's ready.
I am ready. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I am, but I get a bad rap. This time I was ready to go. My phone is off. My computer sound is off. Everything's good to go. I'm so ready. My name's Freddie.
There it is.
The thing that he said there, I just want to examine it because he is legitimately the only person in the world keeping alive Gary Stevens, the former offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, walking into a press room 40 years ago before a game in which the Dolphins were going to play the Bills with Bernie Parmalee as their running back. And he walks into the press room, Gary Stevens, lifelong offensive coordinator, never graduated to a head coaching job, even though there were like protests and people in Miami and every corner of the University of Miami were rooting for him to get a head coaching job he never got. He would come into the press room, usually smoking a cigarette, because back then you could do that.
My man.
And he would just say, "Who needs me? Dummy."
Right, as if someone automatically did need him. Who needs me, dummy? You're going to go to Buffalo with Bernie Parmalee?
That story's like Piano Man. Like, I've heard it a few times, but
It's
it just
always
slaps
good.
every time.
It's always
Never
good.
stop.
Best. Yeah.
I'm singing along with it. I'm like,
learned
who
something new.
needs me?
The cigarette is a detail that I never caught before.
Oh,
Really?
The cigarette,
Yeah, the cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
Someone ripping a heater and saying, "Who needs me?" is that's peak.
It was very theatrical. It almost had a Rat Pack vibe to it.
The thing that you guys have to enjoy about that is lost in in the lack of context of a story that nobody remembers from 40 years ago is just how sad that press room was. Like, it's not what the it's not what the Dolphins are today. Like, this is not St. Thomas Aquinas, right? But this is soon thereafter, right? This is a bad press room. You are taking inventory of your life and don't think it has much worth when Gary Stevens is blowing cigarette breath in your face.
Yeah, it's amazing how everything has changed. Like, back then, it essentially, for a few years, it would be me, Charles Bricker, and maybe Hal Habib. And we were the only reporters there. There was no ESPN yet. There was no national coverage element to the Dolphins or most NFL teams. And so it was very confined. So Gary Stevens would be coming in to a very small room, just a few people. Who needs me? And we always felt like...
Dummy.
Yeah, usually the dummy. Usually. Not always.
Not always.
Not always.
Okay.
But we all
Who was he
felt-
talking to with the dummy? Who was that directed
I don't know. I'm not sure. I like to think it wasn't me, but you're never quite sure.
Had to be Edwin, right? I mean,
No.
It
Definitely
would never be Edwin.
No,
Stugotz
God,
picking
no.
the
I thought that's
absolute
playfully,
worst of
though.
the
that
people.
was the joke.
No, I thought it's a playful. Hey, dummy.
Yeah, no, it was playful. It was
You
playful.
can call Edwin Poe playfully dummy.
Right.
Dummy.
Edwin, God bless him, rarely showed up at camp. He was a guy who went to games, and
That's where you learned it.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's right. That's right. But Stevens, when somebody says to you, "Oh, needs me," and you think he means it literally, you have to fabricate a question at that point. You can't leave him hanging. So even if no one needed him, you have to say, Bernie Parmalee's playing great lately. Oh, hey, you're going to go to Buffalo. Because at that time, Buffalo had great players. I mean,
They had
were
Thurman
good
Thomas and Jim Kelly and
Yeah.
Andre
Reed,
Reed
right.
and Bruce Smith.
Yeah, I mean, they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row, lost them all, but went to 4 Super Bowls
So
in
the
a row.
offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins kept coming into the press room and saying, "How the hell am I supposed to win in Buffalo with Bernie Parmalee, a former UPS driver?"
Right, exactly. Yeah. And, that's honesty you don't get out of the modern offensive coordinator.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
So I have a little stuff for you here, Stugotz, surrounding, I think, the part of the Heat trade deadline that most people were interested in, which is the Kevin Durant part of it. And Kevin Durant was, as it relates to the Miami Heat, Kevin Durant was blindsided, according to Shams, that he was going to be traded. All of that is a mess, and I will tell you, after the Heat dealt with the Suns, Ishbia is a nightmare. Like, just the guy that owns the Suns trying to play general manager is making a mess of things as the rich person who's in charge of everything and wants to run his team, and is doing so poorly as an amateur rich guy with toys and doesn't know that you don't, try to make a trade for Jimmy Butler and then just ruin everything by informing your superstar who came to be with you through means that aren't direct that he's going to be traded. Like, that's a poison. You can't have that, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kevin Durant left after this season because of it. But he's saying about an ESPN report that the Suns locker room has been toxic the following, quote, I heard that Ramona Shelburne came out and says our locker room is toxic. I try to tell people who aren't around this game much that it's easy to say our locker room is not connected when you come in there 45 minutes before and guys are in their game mode and not talking to each other. 4 or 5 guys might be in the training room. A few guys might be in the weight room. It's not a welcoming environment right before the game. That's part of getting ready to play. I think it's unfair and lazy to categorize our team as toxic when you come in there for 5 minutes throughout 4 months. That's the only time you've been in our locker room, and then you can make a narrative. I don't think that's fair to us, but like I said, that's part of the game, part of the business we signed up for. Shit is not fair in this game, but we got to deal with it and accept it. What are your thoughts there?
Who was that? Was that Ishbia or Durant?
That's Durant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, Kevin Durant, first off, I'm certain that's done by reporting. I'm certain the sources are good, that it's toxic in that locker room, and Kevin Durant's in charge of that. So for him to take it personally, he should, because he's one of the leaders of that team. Make sure the environment's not toxic. I believe the reports. I do.
But he's denying the reports.
I don't care what he's denying. I mean, I believe the reports. I believe the sources. It's coming from a good place. And Kevin Durant this has followed him to many of the places that he's gone. And so I'm not surprised by the reports.
I don't think a lot of people have said that he works in toxic locker rooms. I don't think that that's followed Kevin Durant. I
think that was the case in Brooklyn. I think he teams up with guys who are considered toxic, like Kyrie Irving, and then you have a toxic environment. Why would this be surprising to anyone? And why would it be surprising to a single person that Kevin Durant is questioning the sources and the story itself, saying, no, you've been there for 5 minutes? No, this is not about how long you've been in the locker room. This is about sources within that organization telling a credible reporter, hey, it's toxic in here.
I also saw Ramona speak on this, and to me it sounded like, the report is a report, but on TV, it also sounded like a fair amount of forecasting, like this is going to be a bad situation. It might not be a good situation now. It's only going to get worse. And I think Kevin might be seizing on a more literal definition of what's happening in the past or the present.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that because Kevin Durant was blindsided by this idea that he might be suddenly traded, he is a part of whatever toxicity there might be, right? Based on on his attitude and feeling blindsided and feeling not appreciated or whatever one feels when you don't expect to be traded and all of a sudden you're in the middle of all these rumors, Miami rumors and such. I mean, that he's got to be pretty sour right now.
I find usually very interesting how different the player perspective can be from everybody else's perspective. So he's arriving at this conclusion that you don't know what you're talking about because you're not in here.
Right.
But Ramona is not someone. She may not have been there very much for 4 months, but she's talking to the people who are there. Like
Correct.
she's
Yes.
doing the kind of reporting. This is not just some gasbag saying something on television or on the radio that hasn't done the reporting on that. She's not going to make stuff up for clicks. She's never done that. And Stugotz is right that the credibility there is in place in a way that I think we should treasure at this time as things become more and more murky. What's true and what's not true. I saw that Hank Azaria, AI, is now trying to create his voices so that all 21 of the Simpsons characters he can not be paid for them because I have no idea what's coming for our future in terms of what's real and what's not real. But for the moment,
Well, just trust the leadership in place during this really highly volatile time. I've actually wrapped my head around it so much because I fear AI. It grows more powerful every day.
You should fear it.
And we have this leadership in place. There's so much tech influence. I'm really scared about it. But you know how when you botch a Google search and it says, "Did you mean?" And you could be in this endless loop. What if the leadership that we have right now is so confusing, keeps AI on its heels the entire time, that it's just left in a perpetual, "Did you mean?" Wait, I can't actually reason with this. Maybe this is the perfect leadership to have during these times.
Elon Musk, it feels like, is running our country, and furthermore, he's investing in all future AI technology because the amount of power that he wishes to have over a future that is uncertain and scary is a bit terrifying, especially since he's a descendant of apartheid, and you've seen some of his behavior and how shameless he is about grabbing at power, money, and attention.
He did try to buy OpenAI for like $97.4 billion, and the counter was, "We'll just buy X for $9 billion. No thanks."
Yeah. So I wanted to explore, though, the parts of this that happened with the Miami Heat as it relates to Kevin Durant. First of all, you should know that was not close. It was never close. There was nothing close there. A conversation.
So not a whiff? It wasn't a whiff by Riley?
It was not a whiff. It wasn't close. Well, it's a whiff if you think this is where it is a whiff. Okay, the reason it wasn't close is because of the Heat, not because of the Suns, and because the ask was, according to the people I've talked to, our entire team. It wasn't one of these young players. It wasn't Jaquez and Ware. It was they wanted our whole team. And Ishbia isn't going to trade Durant he's not going to trade Durant for pennies on the dime. He's not going to blindside Durant unless he was just sort of sniffing around on what's the most I can get for Durant. I know the Miami Heat are interested in this.
I mean, the Suns have a better record than the Heat. Maybe they should have done it.
Do you think so?
Trade the whole team.
For
Like
Kevin
just trade
Durant?
the entire team. Imagine if they just trade jerseys.
For a 36-year-old Kevin Durant.
It seems like Riley's
Would
going to
have
have
been
an
fun. He would have landed a whale. We've been
Seems like
hearing
a
about
big
all
ass.
these years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, what do the Suns do then? They have way too many players. You know?
Right.
It seems like the opportunity to whiff on Kevin Durant will present itself once again. And I know we're on the Heat aspect of it right now, but one thing that I can say with certainty is toxicity is subjective. I guess Kevin Durant famously just cares about ball, keeps his head down. Whatever the locker room situation is in Phoenix, he prefers that well over going back to Golden State. Like, whatever you may think of that Phoenix locker room, he thinks going back into that Golden State locker room, which would be a cool story on the outside if you have no inside information. Go back to Golden State. Come back to a hero's welcome. Hell, you may actually be able to compete for a title with Steph again. He does not want to go back to Draymond Green in that situation.
I'll get back to the Durant part of this in a second, but last night the Warriors won against Milwaukee in Milwaukee, and I don't remember this. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. Steph's been very good the last 4 games, especially the last 2 with Jimmy Butler. Has he ever played with somebody who can get 15 free throws a game? because the way Jimmy's playing there, it doesn't even matter that he's 4 for 12. He's just going at the rim. And I'm wondering, have they had a player in Steph Curry's entire tenure that'll cave in the defense at the rim so that he's getting 15 foul shots a game?
I mean, it wasn't their game when they were winning championships, right? So you're looking at Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I don't remember those guys getting to the line 15
But has
times,
there been
right?
anybody? Has there been anybody has Steph Curry ever played with a player? Like, I know they went at the beginning of all of that, they were throwing Bogut's and bigs and just bigs at the rim. And I just don't remember whether Steph has had that ingredient before or not. But Billy, do you, like, if I say to you, I don't even know, like, I don't have the contract matchup, and I didn't ask about particular players, and they wouldn't tell me about particular players anyway. But when they say the whole team, if I say it's some combination, if it's Ware, Jaquez, and Bam, and like if that fits up and Jovic
And Jimmy.
and Jovic and Jimmy, like if I make it all of those players, you want a 36-year-old Kevin Durant to just play with Tyler Hero and not guard anybody?
I mean, I think we're just married to guys that are a play-in team every year, and then they go on a run and make the
Yes.
finals. But like this core isn't good enough, right? Like, can we all? Jeremy won't agree, but can we all agree they're not good enough? They've made it to the finals twice, but like
With Jimmy.
this isn't a team that is like competing with the Celtics in the East. This is like a 7, 8, 9 middling team that then goes on a run at the right time. At a certain point, you have to like accept, and I mean, I do this as someone who's a fan of the Marlins, who are never really good enough. You have to accept that like the people you've fallen in love with just may not be good enough to get done what you want to get done, and you need to move on. Now, trading all of them for Kevin Durant isn't the solution, but Kevin Durant in a Heat uniform is pretty cool.
I feel like if you kept just Bam, I would have been okay with it. Like,
And
I'd
you
give up
just
Tyler, give up Ware.
really.
Just so we're clear, you're just trotting out Kevin Durant and Bam every
You
game.
just lose so much defense. If you lose Bam from this team and you're left with Durant and
Right.
Tyler Hero, I mean, the defense,
But like
woof.
they're 25 and 26. What are you giving up? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you're making it seem like you're breaking up a powerhouse. That's not the reality. You just like all these players because you're familiar with them and they've been around a
Bam
long
was a
time.
starting player on Team USA.
Okay, great. And
Billy
they're
is
25 and
100% right.
I just said I'd give up everybody. I mean,
Team USA is not
for
what
you
it
guys
used
not
to
to
be. I mean,
acknowledge that Bam is a good piece.
I'm not saying he's not a good piece. They're just like these pieces have proven that they're really not good enough.
He's a good piece that we've been saying for a decade. Can he piece it all together? He is never going to be the total package.
Right.
He's never going to be the more aggressive Bam. He is never going to be the guy. He is well past that tipping point. He is a finished product. If you want to hold on to that, cool. He's a good player, nice player, fine player. Retire his jersey in the rafters. But we know what he is. The day of projecting Bam Adebayo, that shit ended 3 years ago.
But you do that for Luka, 25. Like, I wouldn't give up that, even though I'm not disagreeing that he is limited, but I'm not giving him up for a 36-year-old.
Chris, he was their lead player last night, and they scored 85 points, the worst of the season. Understood that it's discombobulated out there. He cannot be your best player. He cannot be your most important player, and he cannot be weakened as you make Tyler Hero your best player because of the usage rate. This is clearly not good enough. It leads me actually to another conversation about the Swifties today. Do they understand what just happened? Like, given that they've just been winning, like Taylor Swift is getting brooding boyfriend for the first time in 3 years. Like, he's going to go home and he's going to need some nursing here over the next 14 days of hiding because of how much this hurts. And when you talk to Travis Kelce today, because the not good enough, the acknowledgement to know that you're not good enough, it's so easy to say from over here. And I think Billy's right too. And Mike's been saying this for 2 years about the Miami Heat. And Mike ends up being more right than Heat management about Terry Rozier and keeping everything together because they were this close. But the self-awareness of not good enough. Does Travis Kelce know today? If you sit in front of Travis Kelce and say, you guys aren't as good as the Eagles, does he acknowledge that, or does he say, no, we just had a bad game? Like, does he acknowledge yeah, that team is just a lot better than us, and that's it. If we play them a bunch of times, we're going to lose every time? Or does the mind of an athlete and the perspective of an athlete that's different than ours get it wrong because the confidence has to be there to think that you're better than others?
I think he acknowledges that his team is not as good as the Eagles team. It was pretty obvious. It was on full display on Sunday. I tried to tell him 3 years ago. No one listened to me, but I was right, and I was early. I was early to the party. So I think he would acknowledge that, but he has number 15 at quarterback, and he would say, I think, if we just add a few more pieces, perhaps we can get back to where we were.
I don't think he acknowledges that.
Really?
I don't think.
You think he thinks this run is done with Patrick Mahomes?
No, I don't think that he thinks the Eagles are just flatly better than they are. That the Eagles.
Well, then he's lying.
I don't think that he thinks that the Eagles can do that to him in every game they play against him.
The thing about the Chiefs in particular, though, is like they've beat teams that are just flat out better than them in the Super Bowl, and they've always been able to just make it work when they needed to make it work in the Super Bowl. This year, they couldn't. So I think that they may not think that they're not less talented than other teams, but like this Eagles team isn't the first team that was just flat out better than them. This is just the first team that beat them.
Yeah, but you're saying flat out better than them because that's what the scoreboard says, and it's what we all saw. I'm telling you that the perspective of the huddle is very often to never acknowledge that.
Right. I agree with you. I think the Chiefs think right now that if the teams played again a week from Sunday, Kansas City would win. I think every key player on that team, including Travis Kelce, thinks that. I think they're wrong. I think the Philadelphia Eagles lesson for the rest of the NFL is that you have to build from the – you don't have to, but you build from the inside out. Philadelphia dominated because their offensive line is the best in the league and showed it, and their defensive line was able to sack Mahomes 6 times without blitzing, which left the pass coverage deep.
More than he's ever been sacked in a game because he's elusive. Mike Ryan came in here today. This was funny to me, Stugotz, the way this turned, okay? Mm-hmm. This was really funny because Mike Ryan came in here today and he's like, you know how you beat that? You just run draw plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you beat pressure with 4 when they have 7 guys back there in the secondary? Yeah, you run the damn ball.
Yeah,
That's how you beat it. It's not something. It's like you want to play a numbers game. Okay, they got 7 back there. That means we have a numbers advantage up front. Let's run the fucking ball.
Yeah. In Mike's defense, he did rewatch the Super Bowl.
He did.
Crunch of tape. The draw was
he
there.
put the time in.
Dan, the draw was there all game long.
They didn't.
The shock draw.
Yes, they didn't run the ball. That's true. And this is simple math, right? If you're getting pressure with 4, and Kansas City's adjustment was to not try and block their 4 with 5, but with 6. Like, if they're still getting the pressure with 4 when they're using the running back to chip and they're using 6 guys, you've got a problem in your secondary when your receivers aren't good enough. But the thing that's interesting about what Mike's doing, I think, is just the very idea that you can watch that for 1 half and be like, yeah, I know more than Spags and Andy Reid. I do. Like, they haven't thought about the draw play. They have not considered it. They're confused.
That is not Spags' job.
No, Andy Reid right now is calling Spags and texting me. He's like, why did we forget about the draw play? Pacheco was doing that so well on Tuesday.
Excuse me. Only one in this show was trying to take credit away from coaches yesterday, and that was you with Fangs.
It wasn't with Fangs. It was with all of the Eagles, because if you think the Eagles suddenly got smarter than Andy Reid and Spags, you guys just want to credit coaching for stuff. Like, Andy Reid and Spags were supposed to be the standard going into that game, not Fangs. If I asked you before that game, who's got the coaching advantage, what's your answer?
Everyone would say the Chiefs.
Yep.
It doesn't mean we're right.
Well, but I don't think that them losing is because that had anything to do with coaching. Like, I saw so much yesterday. Patrick Mahomes choked, and Andy Reid and Spags, well, not so much Spags, but Andy Reid was undressed, exposed. And I'm like, that's not what happened.
Well, it is.
They did abandon the run early. They had that drive after it was 17-0 where everyone kind of knew, okay, including the Eagles, by the way, at that point, we're going to try to reestablish the run. And they get like 4 yards on their first 2 plays. And they're like, well, I guess that's that. And to me, that's not how you do that. That's not how you stay committed to the run. Those weren't creative run plays. Everybody in the building knew that they were going to run there. I think you stick with the run beyond that. You go 4-down territory. You run on 3rd down. You run to something other than an HB dive.
It's easy and fair to say in retrospect that Kansas City should have run the ball more. One of the Chiefs' problems this year is that they didn't run the ball very well. Pacheco and Kareem Hunt both averaged 3.4 yards a carry, well below average. This is not a great running team.
I love football so much. Nick Sirianni was the guy who couldn't win the big game. He was crazy. He was a lunatic, and now he's a leader of men, and Andy Reid doesn't know what he's doing.
Stupid. It's stupid.
What would Andy Reid's honest reaction be to Mike's note? Hey, should have ran the ball more. Like, what would he say?
Yes. Yes, he's right.
He'd probably be like, no shit.
Yes, he would be right. They ran the ball 7 times when it wasn't Mahomes running the ball. But I just want you to, I want you all to absorb. I want you all to just let this soak in, okay? What you saw on Sunday was so shocking that Mike Ryan is boldly coming in here with the argument. You know what needs to happen? I need to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands and give it to Pacheco.
Yep.
But Pacheco
and Hunt.
And yes, I need to take it out of the hands of like that offense was so limited all season, and we forgot just because Hollywood Brown comes back and they scored 30 for the first time all season against Buffalo. That offense was bad this year. And Mahomes was the one always bailing him out. It wasn't Pacheco. It wasn't Kareem Hunt. It wasn't running the ball unless it was Mahomes running the ball on 3rd and 5 for 7 yards.
I tried to tell you.
I mean, I saw them win a Super Bowl in which you could have made a sound argument that Damian Williams was the MVP of that game. And last year they had a lot more balance. Look, Pacheco's hurt. Kareem Hunt is older. Maybe they have to address that position. There are reasons why it wasn't as effective. Pacheco never looked the same. He is a punishing runner. But last year, Pacheco getting the ball more and taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, that wasn't a bad play. That was a very effective play. They could have used Pacheco from last year.
Another problem with they should have run the ball more is that this game got out of hand very quickly. And if you're running the ball down 34-0, people look at you like you're crazy, and you are. You know, the head coach needs a breathalyzer test if he's running the ball down 34-0 when your quarterback's Patrick Mahomes.
The thing that is always funny to me about this is, and I remember this all the time, when Dallas and Jimmy Johnson were winning their championships and they would hit any kind of hiccup of any kind on offense, the suggestion to Jimmy Johnson would be some form of, why don't you guys run more screen passes for Emmitt Smith? And you know what his answer was? We're not good at that. The Chiefs are like 22nd or 23rd in the league in running the ball, and it's not like Mahomes was throwing for 300 yards every game either. Their offense was limited. Against bad defenses, their offense was limited.
It's a huge disconnect between people that try to talk about this, and I understand fully the resentment of coaches that hear us say things like run a draw and think that we're idiots. But honestly, we have no idea what those coaches are actually trying to achieve. We don't actually know. We can assume, pressure with 4, collapsing the pocket, that'll wreck it. But we don't actually know what they're doing in the secondary, how they're disguising coverages. We don't know if they're actually executing a game plan. We just have the results to work off of.
Dan, I wasn't giving praise to any coach yesterday. In fact, the guy who deserves praise is Howie Roseman. He put together a roster that is good enough and took a lot of chances. Jalen Carter was a guy who had some stuff coming out of college. He fell to the Eagles, I think, at number 6 or 7, and he was willing to take that guy. He put together a team that was capable of not just beating the Chiefs, but blowing out
beating them up.
Beating them up. The offensive line, the defensive line, the quarterback in the second round, getting A.J. Brown, drafting Devontae Smith. He has put together a tremendous roster.
One of the quiet things that happened on Sunday, and I'm not used to it, right? Because every time you win a championship, whether you're Tom Brady or anyone else, you better have some defensive help that's not going to get acknowledged as we give all of the credit to the quarterback. Man, that was an awfully quiet Chris Jones Super Bowl, and it wasn't just an awfully quiet Chris Jones Super Bowl. On the goal line, he's curled up in the fetal position trying to keep the tush push out of the end zone, and what happens? He hurts his neck. He's just laying on the floor trying to get lower than their offensive linemen, and he's getting pushed by that force so much that they have to tend to his injured neck. And my guess is that if I ask anybody in our audience, maybe some would go with McDuffie, hey, the championship run, who's the most important defensive player? Who's the guy that's always going to make the play on 3rd and 4th down when you need something in the backfield? Tell me all the things he did on Sunday that made you notice him when you guys know what kind of a champion menace that person is. They were losing games when he was holding out. Like, they were just losing games when he held out.
He was dealing with like a neck thing on the sideline that they were working on throughout that
After
game.
that play.
Yeah.
It was after that play
yes.
that they started dealing with that.
No doubt. To the Roseman point, great offseason, potentially one of the greatest ever.
Amazing.
Hired Fangio. We know Fangio wanted to go back to that area, but hired Kellen Moore, who had to rebuild his reputation, now may be a head coach in the league and possibly New Orleans. Signed Saquon Barkley, signed Zach Bond, who was amazing for them. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was also signed. Mekhi Becton was huge for them. Traded for John Dodson, drafted Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And honestly, we should look back at this Carson Wentz trade and supplant the Herschel Walker trade. This is the greatest trade in NFL history because in the Carson Wentz trade, they got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean. These are all picks that turned into these players. And don't forget, they ended up flipping Carson Wentz for a bunch of picks, and those guys became guys.
He also didn't cut A.J. Brown in the middle of the playoff run for
Right.
reading a book on the sideline.
Like Samson said he should.
Yeah.
But by the way, anybody could have had Becton, including the Dolphins.
The Jets had him.
and they gave him and they didn't go for him. The Philadelphia Eagles, 3 of their top 5 players are offensive linemen. I don't know whether that's unheard of, but it's certainly rare, and it showed. And I can't overemphasize that, in my opinion, the Eagles are great because their offensive and defensive lines are great. Nobody talks about the 2 lines much enough, but that's fundamentally why they're champions.
It may have been nobody talking much about it beforehand. That ceases today, though, because even though the quarterback, even though a lot of people are talking about Jalen Hurts and trying to elevate him a tier the way that Stugotz is, I think most people acknowledge how it is and where it is that game was won in a way that was obvious. The thing that I was trying to tell you guys yesterday about throughout the history of football, when the line advantages are that obvious to the eye, because Mike's sitting here saying, well, we don't know what the scheming is.
Right.
We don't actually know. We don't know enough while we're watching to know what the adjustments were in the second half in the secondary. But what we do know, and what all of us saw, overt to even the biggest of amateurs, is offensive and defensive line play, that if I put the advantages on any team that has played a game throughout football, that team will never lose a game. Like, if it's that obvious that you don't lose at football, because the whole thing is, can you get 10 yards in 3 plays? And you're going to get it every time, and you're going to prevent it every time if you have those pressures. The idea that the Chiefs went for 23 yards in the first half,
crazy.
Like, that's it. When Mike Ryan says, why did Patrick Mahomes look like he didn't want to be out there? Who the bleep would want to be out there for that? The world is watching, and I can't do anything, and I'm trying to throw a 3-yard pass to Travis Kelce, and I'm so scared I'm throwing it at his ankles because I don't have time, and I need him to get down and cradle one of these balls because I don't feel like I can do anything down the field, that I don't have any time to do anything down the field.
I'm sure you could look at Super Bowls in which you could find a distinct advantage along the lines, and that team doesn't end up winning. But what it never happens is the team with the advantages along the trenches gets blown out. Never.
I will tell you that one of the few times I have ever seen a team that had those kind of advantages lose is when the Miami Hurricanes lost to Penn State in a Fiesta Bowl, and it's because Jimmy Johnson wouldn't stop throwing the ball. But on that game, it wasn't Mahomes throwing 2 interceptions. It was Testaverde throwing 5 of them.
Right.
Like, it took a ton of interceptions to make that even a close game, which it was right up until the very end.
Are you blaming Jimmy for that game? I mean, it sounds like you are.
He just maybe retired, Dan.
I mean, Jimmy can blame himself. I don't think you should be blaming Jimmy.
I blame Jimmy. Jimmy would blame Jimmy. It's Jimmy's fault. It's the most haunting loss of Jimmy's career because he's like, nobody ever loses that game.
And it should be because Miami's defense was so great that despite all of those Testaverde turnovers, Penn State scores 14 points. Despite all that, that's how great Miami's defense was.
Freddie's right.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it. I wanted to get back to the Kevin Durant Heat thing because Jeremy had 1,000 things that he wanted to say, and he continues to get boxed out. Did we get that sound of when Terry Rozier was traded to the Miami Heat? And
Worst day of my life.
It broke Mike Ryan, and well, he's rivaling Antoine Walker and Eddie Jones as one of the most unpopular players right now in Heat history. And I am told that a sideline discussion broke out yesterday among media members about whether or not Terry Rozier is the worst player in Heat history to ever wear that uniform and get those kind of minutes. That game in the modern age of offense last night is an abomination. It's hard to watch them be that far behind the Boston Celtics, even if you understand that Tyler Hero's not playing. But the 85 points. The 85 points make it an unwatchable basketball game, but Jeremy will always have the 22-13 start they got with the hope of Andrew Wiggins.
That's exactly right, Dan. That's exactly right. It was unbelievable off the bat, where you got Alec Burns in there instead of Tyler Hero, and they're up 22-13 at a timeout. It was amazing. What a thrill.
Up Jeremy's tweet from before the game, obsessed with this starting
And
lineup.
I was right to be. They got off to a 22-13 start despite shooting only 30-something% from the field.
I may have missed something because the Super Bowl was last week, but like, isn't Terry Rozier actively being investigated for throwing games? How is he still playing?
Great points.
Yes, it is a great point. We didn't
Well,
even
what's going
talk
on with
about
the
that.
investigation?
How are we just allowing someone who maybe was fixing games to continue to suit up and play every night?
The allegation is just one game.
He hasn't been charged with anything. I think that's fair to say. He's being investigated along with others, but he has not been charged with any wrongdoing. I want to point out that the Heat's 3 new players last night were 5 for 25. They were all pretty bad. They're going to be better. They had like one practice with the team. I would not judge that trade or this team.
Well, you say
based on
they
last
had
night.
one practice with the team. Jimmy Butler played his first game, knew 3 plays, hadn't done anything with
2-0.
hadn't done anything with the Golden State Warriors, and without not a meeting, not anything, just showed up and.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
One of the things that people are very excited about is that Mitchell and Wiggins with the Heat are 2 of the top 8 perimeter defenders in the league. The problem is the 85 points when Tyler Hero is not playing. And one of the things, can you give me the stat of the day music here, Chris? Because this is, I believe, something that doesn't have a precedent in NBA history, and I defy someone to come up with a statistical precedent to what it is I'm about to say.
Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day.
During his entire Heat tenure, Jimmy Butler, during the regular season, had 0 40-point games. In the postseason, he had 8 of them. That can't exist anywhere in the history of basketball.
Playoff Jimmy.
Just there must not be such a thing as that. And it's been interesting to watch him in Golden State go for 4 for 12 last night, but go and get all of the free throws. There just aren't a ton of people playing like that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't object to the criticism that he's a free throw merchant. He's like, I get a bunch of free throws because I'm hard to guard, but that thing
Didn't get him so much the last few games with the Heat. That's awkward. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder what was going on.
I think you do know what happened there. Things are so bad between Jimmy and his agent and the Heat. The Heat have no time for his agent, like, at all. That guy was talking to like a lot of media members, doing his job, doing what the agent is supposed to do. But the thing is so bad that they can't even agree on who called whom unhinged first. Because Jimmy Butler is claiming that Pat Riley was unhinged in the meeting, but the Heat think that he got the word unhinged from them saying that he was unhinged about things.
This is all very ugly, and the Athletic piece, which you could deduce because of the slant that the story took, came from Jimmy's camp. And it does paint the Miami Heat in a very negative light. From the meeting with Pat Riley, trying to awkwardly bond over their fathers, to Mickey putting off a meeting. No, this is a priority, but I actually can't make this meeting. Like, it's all bad. But I would say some of this stuff seems, to me, pretty disingenuous and pretty – it's bad ball. because he's invoking, if you see the back of his jersey, he's really like seizing on this relationship that he had with his father, a relationship that really bloomed more through sickness and adversity. And the Miami Heat were very supportive. I happen to know this for a fact. We're very supportive.
This is a happen to know report?
They know. I know this for a fact. Everybody in that organization was supremely supportive of Jimmy when his father was going through this, and to turn the temperature up and use that as if the Miami Heat were somehow awkward around that situation is to me a little bit of bad ball.
Is crying one of the characteristics of becoming unhinged? Because I don't view it like that. I view it like you start throwing papers, you start doing stuff like that's just getting emotional, you know?
Well, I want to talk to you guys about this because I started doing this yesterday and...
Crying?
The thing that's happened over the last 5 years with me, and we were talking yesterday with Chris about his dad crying later in life over things. The idea of using crying to be male weakness, that is so weak, honestly. Like the idea that what is male is to repress the feelings, push them down, and secretly not show anyone that you're hurt about the death of your father. Like that you would want, that you keep that buried inside, you're private, and if you need to blubber on the toilet with the door locked, fine, but don't show that to anybody. It's so uniquely male and so uniquely repressed and stupid that it's totally unsurprising to see it used to slap Pat Riley across the face when Pat Riley is somebody that I have known to cry when he talks about his father since I've known him.
Right. I love a good cry. I'm not certain how Greg feels about it, but I do. You feel better after you cry. I mean, I don't view it like, hey, I'm not as manly as the next guy. I'm just crying, and it feels good.
I have been embarrassed by crying a number of different times, and I will tell you that I'm doing a substantive amount of work through acupuncture and a whole lot of medicines that I don't totally understand, holistic medicines, to try and lubricate whatever it is that this thing is here that makes you shut down around where your emotions are in order to let them go. The idea, I began to say this yesterday with Jimmy Johnson and where it is that he decided to quit on coaching, because he had been an unfeeling, cutthroat, mercenary creature who was disgusted with himself at his mother's funeral because he did a lifetime of regret on, I haven't been the father, I haven't been the husband, I haven't been the son that I wanted to be, and breaks down sobbing for the first time, letting all of that go to use what Mike is saying there, what is particularly dirty. The Heat obviously did not like that athletic story. The ESPN did a more even-handed one than that. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald did one that was more pro-Heat than that. Everyone's got their truth here. Jimmy Butler says, I haven't even told my part of the story, and when I do, it'll be with Shaq. Why will it be with Shaq? Because Shaq was outside the facility and wouldn't be allowed in to get his stuff back when he wanted to punch Pat Riley. That's why Jimmy Butler is doing, will do it with Shaq if he ever tells his part of the story. But I don't actually know what the truth is here. Everyone's got their own truths, and everyone is self-interested and biased about what those truths are.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Stugotz has been real chatty during the breaks. He was just ripping me nonstop. I don't even know what the starting point of you ripping South Beach sessions was. I walked into the room and you and Cody were howling with laughter, and it was about South Beach sessions, and I don't even know what it is that you were laughing about or what triggered the thought.
We were discussing how we thought the last segment ended very, very well, and Greg prefers you to end a segment with a great point as opposed to trying to get him on some sort of hard network out, because you're really good at this. Like, you make great points, and it's been a while since you took us and carried us to a break, and it felt good, and you and I were talking right afterwards, and I said, Dan, don't worry about anything else. Baby steps. You took it to the break. You made a great point. We finished right then and there, and Greg was saying you should be Dan's producer. You should produce South Beach sessions. And I said if I did, I would tell him, hey, enough with putting people on the couch. I'm 5 minutes away from committing suicide.
Right.
Like, let's move on to something fun and funny. You're a fun and funny guy, Dan, and all you do is serious. Get away from the serious. That's all we were saying.
I mean, in fairness, Dan has always been like that. Like, before you were on
Legend.
Before you were on the air, I used to call you Le Batard, Dan Le Batard, because your interviewing style was you wanted, if you got a tear out of somebody you were interviewing, you'd won the gold medal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the gold medal of interviewing to you, is drawing emotion out of somebody.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
It is. It's the gold medal. It's your gold medal.
What medal is
it?
it? Yeah, it's not gold.
It's your gold medal.
You don't care if you break news, you
Right.
just want tears.
Right.
Le
right.
Batard.
Yes.
Not news, break hearts.
Yes.
There you go.
So Stugotz says, where's the funny? Because I believe everyone would take a look at the entirety of my career and say that on radio and television, all he did was respect television and radio way too much. The funny is here, and the serious and the deeper is there, but I'm almost fundamentally incapable of small talk. Like, I don't do it very well. I don't have very much interest in it.
That's not true. You and Mike Fuentes, I saw before the show, a nice 5 to 6 minutes.
Ask him how many times that's happened since he's worked here. Go ahead.
It was like I was like noticing it. I'm like, look at Mike and Dan. They're just talking about life.
He is walking a little bit taller today.
I'm not good at that, but I will say this one is surprising to me. This one I don't have, because in keeping, Chris, this might surprise you about your father. In keeping with your dad having a perspective in his 70s, and I don't know how he came about this, because he's someone who is almost allergic to learning and changing. At this age, it's not something that he wants to be doing. And yet, more than anyone on earth, your father, after listening to several 2-hour South Beach sessions, will reach out multiple times and say, this is the best work you've ever done, Dan. This is the best stuff in your career that you've ever done, because your dad has some sort of want for this vulnerability that men love to mock about. Look at Pat Riley crying in the meeting because he's a coward or whatever it is you think he is, when all he is greedy about winning, and he will do whatever it is that he wants in order to win. And Jimmy Butler put him in a checkmated spot where he had to pull out my dad card. like an act of total desperation to try and get what he wanted, because there were no others.
It's the final card. I mean,
Seem to have checked in with the Miami Heat recently, especially after that athletic story. I'm wondering if they were at all bothered by the dad stuff or the stuff surrounding the dad stuff, because Jimmy was dealing with this for quite some time, and he was actually performing at a very high level while he was dealing with this. And when we talked about the Miami Heat have given liberties to Jimmy Butler that they haven't really given for other people, it's not just media availabilities, although Udonis went through something similar, and the Miami Heat absolutely acquiesced to everything that was going on in that personal life. But I would be particularly hurt by there, knowing the effort that even I just know, and it's probably a tip of an iceberg.
It's more hurtful than that, right? Like, we can do all the stuff about leaking and business play and everything else, but this is a notoriously private organization, at least in part, because they like to control the messaging and the optics. That has never had anything like that. So the most hurtful and embarrassing thing I would think about this, although I did not ask this question, is that you are basically showing everybody the organization's ass. Like, this is a private organization that prides itself on that is not how we behave. The lead thing is accountability, and now we'll see in Golden State with how everything is going, where and how that goes with Draymond Green, the faded embers of Draymond Green's career, trying to tell Jimmy what to do when Draymond Green ain't in charge anymore, but has always been the sort of fire of what it is that team does. But the part about this is the mess when, if we parse through the details of everything that happened here, Jimmy already had a different set of rules than anyone who's ever played here because of what Shaq and Wade and LeBron brought that forced change upon Riley, but not so much change that Riley's ever going to let somebody else be in charge.
Is there an admission that they miscalculated this thing? Because we said it as it was happening. The press release was a huge miscalculation because you backed a player in which very reputable people who are very rarely wrong said he wants out of here. And by the way, he ended up going to one of his destinations that Shams reported at the beginning, where Byrne Lee was over there saying, no, none of this is true. They totally misread that situation. Do they at least acknowledge that now? Because they backed a dude into a corner that you do not back into a corner.
They blame him.
It's awfully convenient. They got to see their own missteps here.
He blames them. That's where we are. That's how it gets there.
Well, let me ask you this. When it came time that Jimmy knew that they were not going to give him the max extension he wanted, isn't that where it all began to go sour? He realized that his future was not with this franchise,
yes.
Just as the franchise realized we're not going to win with Jimmy,
yes.
our best player.
Yes.
We've taken Jimmy as far as we could take Jimmy.
2 years, $111 million. All of a sudden, Jimmy found his joy again. That's exactly how it happened, the moment that he got his extension.
It was always about money, and it's sad that the divorce ends this way. It was always going to come to an end unless, as sort of stated before the season, as were the expectations, as were the things that Jimmy Butler echoed when he showed up at training camp. He played a bunch of games and played at a really high level, and then maybe the Heat would pay him in that sort of twilight contract or one that they believed they could still get a little more out of him. But when we got to this point, it ends in this really nasty way because it took a month and a half in the middle of the season, and we saw, Jimmy Butler take 14 free throws in his final 6 games with the Heat, now 26 in his first 2 with the Warriors. That shows you the difference in the play style.
I'm going to make this the final words on Jimmy Butler, and this will probably end up being a lie because we've talked about this even today, about 20 minutes longer than we should have.
Mm-hmm.
But here is Eric Spoelstra, and this part is funny to me, right? Because of how it is that we piranha feed on the details of the Discord. To me, Eric Spoelstra is giving the proper voice to what all of this should be before divorce and money and business and everything get in the way. Jimmy Butler has cost himself friendships in that locker room from the way that he has handled his business. But I do believe here is the perspective that is the proper perspective to have from Eric Spoelstra about the last 5 years.
Yeah, the longer I'm in this business, the more that I feel like there's less absolutes. More things can be true. And in this case, I don't have to completely understand how we got to this point. But what I can have is a sense of gratitude completely. It was a great partnership and collaboration for 5 years. Some really deep core memories. I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for the time to be able to coach a player like Jimmy. Every once in a while, I flip through my journal from the bubble. And I get goosebumps when I take myself back to that experience. It's so intense. And from a competitive standpoint, to have the team come together in really unique, adverse circumstances and to have that real sense of a team and a spirit. Those are indelible memories that I'm going to treasure that, the rest of my career and my life.
I hate to admit this, but I'm going to steal that journal.
I want to see
I'm
what's
shocked
in there.
he has one. Yeah.
This
Oh,
team's
God, the
missing.
stories.
This team's missing killer mentality.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
That was
okay.
nice what he just
Jeez
did.
Too
Louise.
nice. I
Too
mean,
nice.
Almost made me cry.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Just fawning over the X. Like,
The music.
Move on.
It's what is that though? The
I love
music.
that
What
music.
was that
Miami
music?
Heat had nothing to do with that music.
What was that music to make it? I could have done with just the words. I didn't need the helpful
I needed
music.
the music. Goosebumps multiple times.
You got
during that.
goosebumps?
Oh God,
Goosebumps.
Those type of videos get me. And Spo, he's right.
No.
He's right. We should think back on this years from now. This was a good thing with Jimmy.
It was his best marriage. It was his best.
It was.
That's where I was. Like both parties acted the way that they've acted their entire careers in the end.
I saw Jeff Goldblum in like a Jurassic Park movie. It must have been the original Jurassic Park, saying some form of the equivalent of, "I'm always looking for the next future Mrs. Jimmy Butler." Like this was his best marriage, but the marriages are all going to end badly because that's how marriages tend to end.
Wait, just so we're clear, Goldblum said Jimmy Butler?
It's the next future Mrs. Dr. Malcolm.
But Dan, if I told Heat fans 6 years ago, next year you're going to get Jimmy Butler, you're going to make it to the NBA Finals with him as your best player twice.
Yep.
Heat fans would take that. Would exceed every expectation.
And everybody would be thrilled to have Andrew Wiggins if you hadn't mentioned Kevin Durant.
Well, I don't know. Look, beating Boston in those two runs were great. I love listening to the radio stations out there, having that over Boston. But now that Boston took the message that the Miami Heat refused to take when they lost to Boston and totally did a drastic change to the roster and became really good after that, I think we can all agree now, with the benefit of hindsight, that it kind of ended up holding this franchise back because they kept thinking that they could go on these miraculous outlier runs that really in that sport have no precedent in a full season. You can have a lockout run, but I think it ended up tricking us into fool's gold.
I can't. I'm trying to get out, okay, guys? But everybody wants to talk Jimmy Butler, so go ahead. Go to the end. I'm trying. Like, everybody.
Well, football's over.
I know, but I want to talk about other things, and I can't, so please,
You have
Greg.
information, Dan.
Right.
And that's how I'm advancing the story, but I've done it for 22 minutes too long.
It was a miscalculation to think Jimmy Butler, as your best player, is going to be good enough to win championships. I don't want to say his 5+ years were a failure by any means. They were not. But let's not retrofit it. He did not win a championship. That was why they signed him. The standard here is championships. He's not Dwayne Wade. He never will be. And he's an alpha dog, though, who wanted to be treated like he's Dwayne Wade.
Okay.
And that's why he's gone.
I don't think anyone's saying he's Dwayne Wade.
Nope.
That's the final word.
I thought Spos were going to be the final word, but okay, fine. That's the final word. Another bit of bad news, by the way. I told you months ago, Valentine's Day. Keep an eye on that arbitration in Minnesota. And if you're a Heat fan, what you wanted is A-Rod not to win that arbitration because that's where the Anthony Edwards relationship is. It's with A-Rod. He's here with him in Miami all the time. And so if A-Rod had not won yesterday, the ruling on ownership of the Timberwolves in that arbitration hearing, all of a sudden Anthony Edwards, who's been pretty vocal about how bad they are this year, and they are bad with him. What's happened there is a little, I guess it's not confusing, but a whole lot of people think that Karl Anthony Towns wasn't as good as he is, and he's clearly that kind of good because all of a sudden Anthony Edwards doesn't look quite like the league wrecker as a Timberwolf.
The next MJ?
I mean, that's the best. Last year is the best Timberwolves team we have seen. Like, it's better than any of the Garnett teams, right? Did Garnett make one Western Conference?
He made one Western Conference
with Latrell
final.
and Sam Cassell.
Yeah.
And so that's the best Timberwolf team that there has been. But there are a number of different things that I wanted it to get to today, inside and outside of sports. One of the corrections that we have to make, Stugotz, I believe that we have to now acknowledge, put this on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show, is Howie Mandel now America's greatest prankster? Because he had everyone believing that Bill Burr and Billy Corgan are brothers, and evidently all of that was nonsense, perfectly acted throughout by Bill Burr, who pretended throughout to be, and still pretends, to be irritated by the revelation from Howie Mandel and Billy Corgan that they were brothers who descended from the same father.
I've been all over this. I've seen every interview that has been done about this. I've seen the interviews in question. I've seen all sorts of investigative pieces, and I still don't know the actual answer. Bill Burr could have misspoke and creaked the door open to all sorts of scrutiny, but to contextualize this conversation, Dana White several months ago went on Howie Mandel's podcast and acted his ass off and kept the con for about a month until he was pressed on what happened there. And he's like, no, Howie actually just asked me to do this bit, and I went along with it because I think he's great. So was this the next con from Howie Mandel? Did he orchestrate two guys that have been in social media? They say, hey, they kind of look alike. Did he actually orchestrate this whole brother thing to get attention? Because it absolutely did get attention, and it's performance art, because Bill Burr, as Dan mentioned, is still keeping up with this con, still very publicly upset, and has the acting chops to actually keep it.
Bill Burr, if you're not watching, first of all, I love to hear Bill Burr talk about movies, like do critical analysis of it, but I also think Bill Burr right now is on Broadway. Is it in Glengarry Glen Ross, or is it in
Kieran
something
Culkin
else?
And Bob Odenkirk.
Jeremy Strong is somebody, Stugotz, who won Super Bowl Sunday for making fun of himself. It was his idea in that Dunkin' Donuts commercial to emerge from the method acting barrel of coffee in a way that had to identify him in words by Jeremy Strong, because you wouldn't have been able to tell from his face that it was Jeremy Strong because of the amount of coffee goop syrup that he had on his face. Jeremy Strong did that only to improve his image by hanging out with Belichick and Ben Affleck and all of these people in this commercial that make that commercial such a national winner 2 years in a row.
I love Jeremy Strong. His commitment to the bit at all times is incredible, because he's this method actor that everyone says is kind of a nightmare to be around, but all he cares about at this point is letting everyone know that he understands that. And I don't know if you guys saw, there was a Variety article with him about this commercial, and he gives these long, eloquent quotes about why he felt it was important to show people that he actually does get the joke. There was one quote that said, "I got there and they had prepared a porcelain white bathtub, which I felt was all wrong. I wanted it to be something cylindrical so that I could come out of it vertically. If I was in a bathtub, it would seem like I was in repose." It's just amazing that he cared this much about the details of a Dunkin' commercial.
And totally on brand as somebody who is self-serious in even the quotes where he explains why he's trying to make fun of himself.
What an amazingly clean read there by Jeremy. I mean, you can give me 100 times to read that sentence, I would never get it right.
That is correct.
Yes.
We all know this. It's
You're gonna
not
try it now.
something.
Damn
It's
it.
not something that even needs to be stated. It's an understood undercurrent that we have on the entirety of the show.
What does repose mean? I mean,
Well, to answer your question about Howie Mandel, yeah, that's a great bit. That's a great bit. And it reminded me of the late, great Andy Kaufman, whose whole career was, is he serious? Is this real? Is he acting, or is he crazy? Is this really him? And he walked that line, which is you're just not sure if it's real or not. And I think that's brilliant comedy.
I love
when-
the idea
when
of
you're not sure.
Howie Mandel being the guy that pranks bald people. Everyone's bald that he does this to. Is that like what he's going for?
Well, Dana White also stormed off his set. We'll get to that in a second, because that was evidently a prank. But here's the Jeremy Strong quote from that commercial. Quote, "It was my response to the idea that I don't get the joke. I'm tired of it. It doesn't really serve anything. It's false. We live in this age where there's so much attention on all the other stuff that's not the work, and we've become sort of conditioned now to talking about the work so much. It really takes away from it. We'd all be better off going back to a time where actors were able to disappear into the work, and there were more absences than presences. They're present in the work and absent outside of that." To which Al Shipley responds, "Giving a long, earnest interview about your Dunkin' Donuts commercial to prove you don't take yourself too seriously."
Have you heard Kieran Culkin touch on their relationship on the set of Succession? Because they have totally different approaches to everything. And Kieran Culkin still takes shots at him through the press, and I think Jeremy actually appreciates it. But Kieran Culkin could not care about direction or throwing himself into a role any less. He just wants to go. He actually worked with Jesse Eisenberg on his most recent movie, and he said it was bizarre working with a director in a scene, because he'd act out the scene and the director would give him all sorts of notes, and he's like, "Shut up, I don't want it. Like, I have notes for you."
I only watched that movie because he'd chosen it, because I want to see what Kieran Culkin's next choices are.
Jeremy Strong on the concept of the commercial. Quote, I also had a memory of my dad. I grew up in Boston, and he used to send me into Dunkin' Donuts to get 1 cream, 2 sugars. At some point, that reminded me of the Henry Wadsworth Longfellow poem about Paul Revere's Midnight Ride.
He's a better reader.
And I thought 1 creamer by land, 2 sugars by sea.
Yeah.
Should I talk about the time that I saw Jeremy Strong on Broadway?
Minor
Look me
penalty,
right
2
in the
minutes,
eye.
delay a show.
Like
Look
your
at the dad, the final card.
Damn.
With the old Riley.
Yeah.
There has not been nearly enough Greg Cody in this Greg Cody Tuesday.
You want him to read?
So I ask you, Greg Cody, Aaron Rodgers leaving the Jets. We have not had enough Stugotz opinion on this as well, because that was a pretty spectacular flameout on all things Jets for them to release Jay Glazer scoopage, hide it in the Super Bowl coverage, just like, never mind about that whole thing we just did at quarterback. What a disaster.
It was a totally failed experiment, especially based on all the hoopla when they signed him, right? I mean, the Jets' Super Bowl odds went through the roof when they signed Aaron Rodgers as if he was still in his prime. Then he misses his whole first season injured except for 4 plays. And then the last season, here's the weird thing. He didn't play that terribly. His second half of his season was not bad, but he was surrounded by a bad team that he could not lift up. A failed experiment, and it's just, to me, it's like, oh, they want to move on from him? My reaction was, no, duh, of course they
Put it
would.
on the poll,
Who
please,
wouldn't?
Juju, at Le Batard Show. Do the Jets have any experiments that are not failed experiment? Or put another way, is to call the Jets experiment a failed experiment redundant?
Dan, it's a tricky one because I don't know what the Jets are going to do at quarterback next year. And to Greg's point, since October 27th, I think, Aaron Rodgers had 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like, he was really, really good.
Good second half.
And so I understand why the Jets kind of want to walk away from all the stuff that goes on off the field with Aaron Rodgers. But what are they going to do? And how are they going to find someone who over a 10-game span throws for 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions? They're not going to find that guy. And so I would kind of leave the door open if I'm the Jets to Aaron Rodgers coming back, because I don't think Aaron has a ton of options, and I think the Jets are his best option. And I think the Jets kind of need him.
Why are you falling in love with when he played bad defenses? He's nuked the last 2
Mike,
seasons. He was bad at the start of the season. There were winnable games that he didn't win.
I know.
That Denver game nuked your season.
I know, but Mike, what I'm falling in love with is the idea of who's going to be our quarterback. Like, who is going to be the quarterback if it's not Aaron Rodgers?
Jameis Winston?
No, Jameis Winston is not good enough.
His numbers were comparable to when you shoved Zach Wilson out the door. Like, maybe it's Aaron Rodgers.
18-4, Mike.
No. Your season on the end of the season, and he closed stronger than he started. But overall, this was a very bad experiment. Wasn't worth the headlines. And also, they're probably going to lose what they invested in Devontae Adams now, too. All of it was bad. All of it was super predictable.
Yep.
He is a different quarterback. And when all the pressure is off and his friend's over there and he just wants to spam him yards down the field, he'll chuck it down and show you that he can still throw it, but he refuses to for the vast majority of the season when it mattered most. Don't fool yourself into that close.
Mike, I'm fooling myself into the fact that we don't have a quarterback. We never have a quarterback.
He's barely above a replacement level guy, though,
I would say
on the
18
totality of the season.
I don't even have to look at it. I'm guessing over an 11-game span, that was the best 11-game span by a Jets quarterback in probably 2 decades.
He's only getting older, dude. It's been a very long time since we've seen him be awesome on a consistent basis. We were talking several years, an Olympiad.
Right.
It's been a long time. That's not the way the aging process works.
I think one of the things at play here is that we have to realize LeBron James and Tom Brady are aliens. They were aliens. You can't replicate that. And now, because of Tom Brady, you just assume that somebody like Aaron Rodgers is going to be great at 37 and great at 39 and maybe play into his 40s. It doesn't happen. Tom Brady was an alien. The norm is Aaron Rodgers falling off the cliff and failing at his age.
Late 30s.
Yeah.
Right.
I happen to think, though, that, and I know this is not popular in sports shout era, I happen to think that both Stugotz and Mike are right about this, because While Mike is saying barely above replacement player, Stugotz is right that in the history of the New York Jets, a 10 or 11 game run of 18-4 is absolutely not Zach Wilson. Like, I know that there are numbers that can be cherry picked to make it look, especially when it comes to wins and losses, like those tenures are the same, and everyone hated Zach Wilson. But I understand how it is Stugotz gets tempted by the last 10 games only because in their absence, he has no idea what's going to play quarterback for him.
Right.
And there's not a lot of worse positions to be in, and I'm assuming they're going to draft a quarterback, but there aren't a lot of worse positions to be in football than heading into an offseason and there aren't good quarterbacks available. Or, as there is in this offseason, somebody's going to take a chance on Aaron Rodgers if he wants to play as a starter because they're in the same predicament that the Jets are in. We don't have someone, and we need to sell tickets with some hope at that position.
Someone might take Daniel Jones. Someone might take Kirk Cousins. There are some guys out there, but those aren't solutions. And I don't know if those guys are better than Aaron Rodgers. In fact, they're not.
Well, you can make an argument that Kirk Cousins is not anymore. He touts that arm injury as the reason. But you mentioned Kirk Cousins and Ben Roethlisberger towards the tail end of his Steelers time. These were teams that are like, well, we could probably be better, but what do? We're worried about what if we reset and we get worse at the position somehow. Yep. And they end up holding on to those guys maybe a little bit longer than they should have. You are not in that class.
I know.
The Steelers and the Vikings were way closer. You are not a good team. So you hit reset. You don't just keep treading water with this guy that is not going to get any younger, that is not going to be less outspoken, that is not going to bring you fewer distractions. He's just not good enough at this stage in his career to welcome all that other stuff, and you as a team are not good enough.
My biggest fear 2 years removed from the Achilles is that Aaron Rodgers will go somewhere else and have the season I wanted him to have here.
But he's not
with the New York Jets. Like I would rather him be bad with the New York Jets than be good elsewhere.
That's insane. He's not going to be good with you next year.
I know. I'll take it.
There's no way he's good.
Russell Wilson.
I like Russ.
A straight up trade.
Justin Fields.
I don't want.
Pittsburgh
no, I don't.
Makes sense for Aaron Rodgers.
There was a point I think I said earlier this year that Justin Fields should be the Jets' next starting quarterback. But that was then. This is now. That was before 18-4. I mean,
Sam Darnold reunion?
No.
Oh, come on.
Sam would never come back.
What
to
a
the
story
Jets.
that would be.
Sam would never come. At this point,
No.
You believe that the situation of the Jets is so dire that Sam Darnold would never go back there, but you'd be willing to want Sam Darnold? Because I assure you, Sam Darnold will not look without Justin Jefferson the way he does with Justin Jefferson.
I don't want him. We don't have that guy. All the best things that have happened during Sam Darnold's professional career happened away from the New York Jets. He is not going back to that dumpster fire, I promise you. And the Jets don't want him, so it doesn't matter.
But that's not the part that you threw it through that prism with at first. At first, you've made that 2025 is the year that Sam Darnold. That's a thing that's so. Think about what have happened the last 5 years in football that Stugotz is saying today. Sam Darnold doesn't want to come back to the Jets.
And Flacco reunion.
Right.
Round two with
maybe.
Flacco. I mean, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Maybe third stop's a charm for Mac Jones.
Don't you think Sam Darnold would take less money to go elsewhere? Do you agree? Like, let's say the Jets made the biggest offer to Sam Darnold. You think he's taking it? Because I don't.
I don't really want to talk about Sam Darnold.
How about the Pastronaut? He's available.
The only reason that
we're doomed, man.
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, he's out there if you want him. Trey Lance. I mean, there's options, Stugotz.
There are no good options.
Trey Lance.
All bad.
Trey Lance. There is no quarterback in football now that I associate with 5 interceptions more than Trey Lance.
Ooh, Tommy DeVito's a free agent, Stugotz.
No.
And you're friends with his agent. I mean, this could be perfect.
Stellato?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
What'd you promise him?
A bounty jacket. Yeah. He's still asking me for it, as if I have some control over this. He's a weird guy. But I love him. I love Stellato.
I think my favorite behind-the-scenes text that was sent during Radio Row Week was Stugotz sending Stellato a text about 2 hours after we had him on saying, hey, I found socks for you if you still need them.
Radio Row is a lot of fun that way.
That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, he left.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, rookie move. I forgot to put on socks. We're like, How do you forget to put on socks with Jordans? Like how did you leave your house today?
It's not loafers, it's Jordans.
No, it was. It was sneakers. Like, rookie move, forgot to put on socks.
That's psychotic. That's psychotic.
That is not a rookie move.
That's psychotic.
That's something else.
It's normal. It's normal.
Normal.
Yeah, I've done it. I'm not wearing socks right now.
You are not normal,
What kind
Freddie.
of shoes are you wearing?
I'm wearing my Skechers without socks.
But when you have your Jordans on, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have Jordans.
You do have a pair
I'm
of
not
Jordans.
highfalutin like that.
Juju bought you a pair of Jordans.
Yeah, those. They're in a museum. You know, I don't dare wear them because
Yeah.
they're Jordans.
Game room of curios.
You also have the Wu-Tang Jordans. So you have multiple pairs of Jordans.
I've never gotten those. They're around here somewhere.
I saw you try them on.
I know, but now they're around here. So I want them.
Okay.
The Wu-Tangs.
Oh,
I
those are
want them.
gone. You're not familiar with how people work
I
around here.
know.
You will never see those again.
That's what I mean. Christopher's probably wearing them right now.
I got my own.
The one thing that I learned at Radio Row that made me wince about football is I learned that Walter Payton played the entirety of his career not wearing socks inside of the cleats because he liked to run with bare feet. And I was like, I can't imagine what those feet look like.
Or smell like.
I can't. The
socks.
What they looked like. God rest his feet.
God rest his feet, indeed.
Yep.
You said it like he's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Do I get $50 from the fine bucket for keeping him
For
still
keeping him
alive
alive,
instead of
Venmo
killing him?
bucket. It is opposite day.
I think.
I don't want to see what his feet look like right now, 20 years later.
Greg thinks that the Eagles taught everyone a lesson. They taught the entire sport a lesson. What is that lesson, Greg?
We've alluded to it earlier. The lesson is offensive line and defensive line are fundamentally the most.
So the most obvious thing.
The Parcells lesson.
So that's the lesson, the
I
most
don't
obvious
think,
thing.
No, I think
Hold
it's,
on, let's hear him out. Come on,
think
Freddie, go.
I think it's quite the opposite of the most obvious thing. In the age when the Dolphins think it's all about getting Tyreek Hill and a quarterback, teams are so quarterback obsessed, particularly in the age when all quarterbacks except Tua run the ball. You downplay the value of an offensive line. I think the Eagles have gone the opposite direction on both lines, which is not obvious because most NFL teams haven't done it, and that's why everybody's looking up at
I love when we strike a nerve. It's so
He's
obvious.
spicy.
it's ridiculous to say that's obvious when throughout the league,
You're right,
it's
Greg.
not obvious.
Yep.
Name another team.
No one does it as well, but everyone would acknowledge the most important part of football is the trenches.
Okay,
like,
then,
that is like
then why don't they act like it?
because there's not that many great players.
Name another team
Name another one.
whose 3 of 5 top salaries go to offensive line.
Name one.
Name that
I would think
team.
the Lions maybe with Sewell
No.
and.
Coughs,
Three
making a
out of
comment.
5? I don't
making-
think so.
right.
No.
It's a pretty good offensive line.
But I'm
It's
saying, I
pretty
know
good.
the
It's
guy,
pretty
the
good.
D lineman that got hurt, he makes a ton of money.
The point is, it's not obvious because most teams aren't doing it. Most teams are not committing. You don't see offensive linemen you see a couple of offensive linemen a year go in the first round. People aren't committed to it.
Greg Cody is spicy today, okay, because ESPN has ranked its 59 Super Bowl winners. And,
Oh, boy.
And Greg Cody does not like where the perfect Dolphins have landed.
Number one.
Are they in the
have to
bottom
be.
9?
Well, Shula would be spinning in his grave.
Right.
That to his dying
Spinning, turning?
whatever. To his dying day, the one thing that really rankled Don Shula was the underappreciation of the only undefeated team in history, and that underappreciation continues. The 72 Dolphins, among 59 Super Bowl winners, are ranked right in the middle, 24th.
Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
It's
Crazy.
absolutely absurd. And I'm not even being a homer here. There's one team in history that won all of their games, and that's the 24th best league champion in the Super Bowl era? No, it doesn't make any sense.
Lions were pretty close for what it's worth. 2 of their top 5 are offensive linemen, left tackle and
Okay.
center. You
Not
have to go
3,
down to
though.
number 7 for Penei Sewell, though.
Okay. But there are many, 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 many teams. I would dare say perhaps the other 30, or at least 25 of the other 30, don't have any high-paid offensive linemen in terms of top 5 salaries.
Well, I mean, Cleveland has half of their top 6 being offensive linemen.
I mean, you don't know anything about what you're talking about, and you have the nerve to call up here and say to me that we're trying to upsell the Falcons to you? Sir, you're not a Falcon fan. You haven't been. And if you have been, You don't know what you're looking at.
Stop being a homer, Bo. Get out of my
I'm the last one who's a homer. Don't you ever call me a homer. Who the hell do you think has been saying the truth since 1973 on Atlanta radio? Who?
Who needs me?
You're Bo Bach.
Yeah, I'll take that. I don't. You know what?
Who?
Being called a homer is not the worst insult I've ever heard.
Who?
So I don't care. Call me a homer.
Who?
Thankfully, though, when Greg Cody says that Don Shula is spinning in his grave or turning in his grave or whatever, Billy and Stugotz were in New Orleans, and they conducted a 2-hour seance that is presently being edited for God Bless Football.
Tell everybody the secrets. Yeah. I mean, sometimes just surprise people.
I want to know how that turned out.
A 2-hour seance. So I am here to say that Billy and Stugotz, and this is why God Bless Football is the #1 football podcast in America 3 of the last 4 years, successfully exhumed the spirit
Well,
of...
there's no way to know.
Yeah.
All right,
Attempted
to
We
successfully...
talked to Bloody Mary for 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, you did. I wasn't there.
Well, that's true.
2 hours. They went and talked in New Orleans, where you can experiment with voodoo and seance and spirits and death, and it's above sea level.
Well, I opened up the thing, American Cities Above Sea Level, and there's mixed reporting on New Orleans. Like this site says that they're 6 feet below sea level here. Yeah,
that is correct. Their cemeteries are above sea level, but barely.
Well, I don't think they're above sea. I think they're just above ground.
That's correct, because there is no beneath ground. It's just the sea.
Well, there is beneath ground. It's just below sea level. You can dig. It's not impossible to dig.
Not very much, though. Not very.
I could dig.
You used to be able to dig deeper.
Not very deep.
At your show, I met a man who sent me a shovel in the mail. Because one time we were talking about, and he came up to me and he goes, I don't know if you ever got this, but years ago, I mailed you a shovel. And I said, sir, I did get that shovel. And for 3 years, I've been wondering who sent me said shovel. And I'm glad I met you. And it was his birthday. It was his birthday. And his wife said to me, you know what? I've been trying to get him to retire, but he's never going to retire because he keeps doing things like mailing people shovels.
I didn't know you could mail a shovel.
Yeah, he
That's
figured
great.
out how. Yeah, oh, man, what a shovel it is, too, Greg. I'll tell you what.
It was a gold-plated or anything
No,
like
but
that?
it has the pointed, the head on the shovel. It's not one of those shovels that you just move dirt around with the flathead shovels.
Sure.
Get out of here. Who needs those?
Yeah, who needs it?
Mm-hmm.
Who needs me?
Who
There
needs
you
it?
go.
By the way, when you reached Shula, did you find him in a good mood? Because he could be very cantankerous.
He was cranky.
Well,
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
you weren't there.
I know.
I look forward to it.
Sources told me.
It's going to be a good interview.
There's a lot of, or actually there aren't a lot of U.S. cities that are below sea level. Most of them in California, Dan, if you knew that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be above sea level.
Yeah, that's what some are saying.
Omicron is on the run, and away it went. But oops, there goes gravity, and here comes a new variant. Omaha, Corona, Hut 1, Hut 2, nothing infects the Super Bowl, and nothing stops football.
racism, greed, trauma to brain and spine. And yet, I cannot look away. Heroes are dead. Science has their heads. Oh, is there no escape from here? I need to know. It eats my soul. Nothing stops the NFL. Is this heaven or hell? I can't tell. It's human cockfighting. CTE prayer circles. They blackballed the blackballer. They tried to end racism by stenciling it in the end zone. Billionaire boys using millionaires as toys. It's all immoral, all unethical. Ooh, the witching hour. Nothing stops the NFL. Is this heaven or hell? I can't tell. It's Urban and Snyder and Flores and Gruden, but Kyler, but Kelsey, but Cooper, but Canty. It's cheating and tanking and bounties and banking, but parlays, but face paint, but Romo, but Bennings.
Here we go. This one's for all the glory. Give it your best, it's all you got. Don't look back. Oh, it's all part of the story. You talk the talk, now walk the walk. Yeah.
When the game's on the line, will you have the guts to make the call? When it's crunch time, will you make us scream? God bless.
Say louder. From the back of every bar, on the subway, on the streets or in your car, wherever you have found yourself, scream out your battle cry. All in. All in. Fourth and goal, open back at your 30. Time to prove you're a hot shot. That's attack. Oh, your name is Brandon Staley. Unleash some hell and go for gold. Yeah. I'll give yours a game. Does your QB have the guts? Will you just punt or throw it up to Cooper Cup? Say it louder. From the back of every bar, or the subway, on the streets or in your car, wherever you have found yourself, scream out your battle cry. All in.
One play at a time, boys. One play at a time. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing.
All in. All in? I'm a fan of the Jets. I'm a fan of the Jets. Jets. Why this team? The Jets! The Jets!
Stugotz, what's the matter, buddy?
I mean, Greg, just one time. I mean, 40 years I've been rooting for this team, and just one time I wanted my team to play in that big game in that beautiful dome in Los Angeles.
Dome? What about the elements? Back in my day, we didn't play in a dome. Let me tell you, back in my day, we considered football to be an honorable game. We didn't have to pass the ball every single play, and that's how we did it back in my day. It's the cold in December and sweltering two-a-days. It's embracing occasional punts, and don't get me started on instant replay.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Venmo.
Ron McGill is supposed to be here shortly. We've got some funny video and audio, Mavs related, to play for you. But it doesn't happen very often where we go to break and Stugotz is mother bleeping himself because of a missed opportunity. So I will say it again. Walter Payton played the entirety of his career wearing no socks, barefooted inside of the cleats because he liked how it felt to run that way.
Feetness. It's right there for me.
It was. It was right there for you. Let's get to that Mavs sound, and let's get to Mike Ryan getting to take a victory lap on Terry Rozier. Can we set up, please, the victory lap for Mike Ryan so that he can take it in the other room and celebrate what is one of the most unpopular players in Heat history? And this is as right as Mike Ryan has ever been about anything, because is this the sound? We've been looking for the sound. Is this the sound from his first, the news, you learning the news for the first time? Or is this you circling back around with your general hatred for Rozier?
This was when the rumors were circulating that Terry Rozier was a possibility for the Miami Heat, something that sent a chill down my spine. But keep in mind, we had Kyle Lowry on our roster at that moment in time, too. So I was put in a very difficult position.
I am told that Genesis right now is working on people in the victory lap room. I think you should go anyway and go ahead and see what you do about a victory lap in there. Get him a microphone, set up that room around Genesis, who's working on people. And in the interim, let's go back in time so that people understand Terry Rozier is an inefficient player. The only time I've seen Terry Rozier be good is in Charlotte, and he wasn't, because Charlotte wasn't any good, and he just got a giant usage rate, and there are a lot of NBA players who could put up those numbers with that usage rate.
So the time you saw him be good, he wasn't good.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's right.
I just wanted to clear that up.
That's right,
All
because I will say this flatly. Nobody except Jamal Mashburn has ever been good in a Charlotte uniform. Now, you're going to come back with Alonzo Mourning and maybe Anthony Mason, but I'm just going to stick to my guts.
Good.
And I know LaMelo is good, but he's not good because he plays for them, and they're not good.
Yep.
And that franchise has a history of irrelevancy that is staggering to have near the father of Marcus Jordan. Speaking of which, I'm going to get to this sound from the police because it felt like Stugotz being arrested if he were Michael Jordan's son. It's some of the stuff Stugotz would do if he was either coked out or drunk and talking to a police officer trying to get out of an arrest.
Who told you Walter Payton didn't wear socks? Because, like, I'm seeing lots of pictures of him playing football wearing socks.
Okay, I will tell you that in later in the show. Remind me.
Is this attached to the racism?
Yeah,
Or
remind
that's
me
another
about that
tease?
too.
So
remind
racism
me,
and socks. Got
Remind
it.
me because they're tied together in a way that is interesting. Yes, in a way that you would not think so. Yes, but I don't want to spoil any of the information that I'm going to give you later in the show. But I am promising that before the end of the show today, I will tell you the story of me being racist in New Orleans. Can you play the sound, please?
And the socks.
And that as well. Can you play the sound of Marcus Jordan? And I don't know, like, I think it's probably reckless to suggest that anyone has a cocaine problem, but if I were looking for identifying marks, being caught doing cocaine in public by a pool, there's video evidence of that. I don't know how hard it is to be Michael Jordan's son. I imagine in some ways it's easy, and in some ways it is very hard. It's super unusual to be in a position where you end up dating your father's ex-teammate's ex-wife, which is what he was famously doing with Larsa
Pippen. They have broken up.
They broke up.
Yeah, she's not in this video, but yes, they
right.
did.
So, but this is Marcus Jordan doing, I think, what Stugotz would do if he was arrested with cocaine and was Michael Jordan's son.
Bro, I'm Marcus Jordan. I'm Michael Jordan's son. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to get home, and I made a wrong turn. Okay, and clearly, we would just like to get our car off of the train tracks, which we were not trying to be on.
But that's why I had to get you out of the car, okay? Because I hear spinning tires, I hear slurred speech from you. You're driving on train tracks.
I'm not slurring anything, and I'm
okay. I'm letting you know. I have concerns. Okay?
Well,
For
I
your
appreciate that.
Driving a vehicle, I can't let you back behind the car and drive a vehicle.
I appreciate your concern.
Yeah, I don't want.
But I am not inebriated. I'm not anything that cannot drive home.
90464.
The thing is,
my job is to keep everybody safe.
I'm not familiar with this area. I made a right. I thought I was making a right onto the highway. I made a right onto the fucking train track.
Where did you turn at, man?
I wish I could tell you, but
I think at some point in there, he also said that the car was worth $300,000, right? I think that we cut that out. Somebody told me that. I had not heard the sound myself, so somebody check on that to make sure that I don't have that wrong, because that's not something I've confirmed. I'm just speaking here live and unedited, and I haven't checked that.
I got to be honest, he didn't drop the MJ name enough. I mean, my every answer to every question would have been Michael. I'm Michael's son.
Yeah.
I'm MJ's son. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm number 23's son. Yeah.
Have you heard
Right.
whose son I am?
Where'd you turn? Well, I'm Air Jordan's son.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was that Jordan Street?
Plus, you got to have a photo of Dad in your wallet, don't you?
you have to.
Yeah.
You have this thing with photos in your wallet.
I know. Everybody should have photos in their
That's
wallet.
not something people do anymore.
He made
is
fun
it?
of me
They
the
should,
other
though.
day because I have my all my money is attached to my phone, and he's just like laughing at me, and he's like, "You should have a trifold," and he pulls out this like thick wallet,
Right. Trifolds.
He's got a wallet attached to his phone, this guy. Unbelievable.
That's
not a
weird.
wallet. Yeah, it's not a wallet.
Yeah, no,
It's not a
it's
wallet.
phone.
It's not.
Yeah. What's next?
There's a phone it.
That's right. Freddie's on it.
But in this case, the picture would have been proof. So Greg is
Yeah,
right.
right.
Yes, right. Oh, you don't believe me? Here?
That's not
Yeah.
really proof, because I can have that in my wallet.
No,
it wouldn't
no,
be
no.
proof that
No,
my
you
father's
can't just
Michael
have a
Jordan.
picture of Michael.
family photo?
Why
I
would you
mean-
have that?
It's a picture of Marcus and Dad with their arms around each other's shoulders,
Right.
ducking it up. You know, a
Cutting a
jovial,
turkey.
a jovial
Yeah, right.
photo, right? Singing songs together, perhaps caroling. The two of them.
Perhaps, yeah.
Perhaps caroling.
Yeah, the two of them, because they're close, they're tight.
Yeah.
He's not just dropping a name; it's Dad.
Yeah.
Let me ask a couple of questions here. Are you of the opinion, are you of the belief that most people are still using wallets? Because I will tell you, every time I pull out my wallet, they make fun of me here for having a wallet.
Right. Yeah, I'm sitting on my wallet right now.
I
It's
understand.
reassuring to feel your ass and the wallet's there.
Also back problems.
Yeah.
Well, it's normal. It's
Put it on the
More
poll,
money, more
please,
problems.
at
Right.
Le Batard Show.
Well said.
Do you own a wallet at Le Batard Show? When he talks about a bad back, Chris, do you realize, I don't know when else your father is doing this, but your father today in the other room made the old man sound that I believe is unique to old men, getting up from and sitting down on the couch. It's the same sound I imagine he makes at a urinal. I imagine when everything releases, it is just an old man sound, and I think it's the exclusive domain of people over 50 with a bad back who sit on their wallets.
Now, what I think of when I think of my dad making the sound you just described, he says a sentence that can come off as sexual, so I'm a little uncomfortable delivering it, but this is how I picture my dad getting up from a couch. Oh, that's the one. He's a big that's the one kind of guy.
Why is that sexual?
Yeah.
I'm just saying the way that's the one.
Yeah, of course I do.
But like you'll say for anything, getting up, getting out of the car, that's the one.
Well, it's a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
When you either sit down or get up, you
is.
feel like you've done something.
Put it on the poll at
He'll
Le
understand
Batard
someday.
Show.
Yeah.
Put it on the poll. Are you in such bad shape that it's a sense of accomplishment
It is.
when you sit down or get up from something?
People ask me, do you exercise? I'm like, yes. I get up and down probably 20 times a day.
A lot of people were making fun, Stugotz, of the wired for sound of LeBron last night with Luka telling him, stop trying to fit in, fit out.
Right.
Fit out. Well, and Kevin Love, or the guy who memes for Kevin Love, because Pablo Torre alleges that Kevin Love has a guy, had a funny meme of like someone punching the air frustrated because he once told Kevin Love to fit in.
Right.
And Kevin Love was just dying to hear fit out. I just think that LeBron doesn't have to tell Luka to fit in or fit out. Just be fit is all it is that he needs Luka to do. But I'm told that Mike Ryan is now in the other room. Before we go to Mike Ryan to take his victory lap, can you just play the sound, Chris, the Terry Rozier sound, as soon as this happened or right before it happened?
Yes.
Mike Ryan's been telling you for a really long time he did not want Terry Rozier on this team, and this is before Terry Rozier was acquired. Mike Ryan threatened the Miami Heat organization.
I do not like Terry Rozier. If the trade is Kyle Lowry for Terry Rozier, what the Miami Heat are doing is moving my least favorite player of all time for my second least favorite player of all time. I am public in my desire to not ever have Terry Rozier on this team. Thank you.
Jeremy seemed very excited about this move, and Mike seemed very not excited about this move. So there's like a wide-ranging spectrum of how to break down this trade.
Am I allowed to give my opinion, or am I a homer?
You're a homer. And Mike, it is your turn now to do this victory lap. Genesis is very hard at work. Who is she working on right now?
She's got Lewis right now. It's a bit of a hazard to try to pull off this bit because I'm like this close to stepping on his ear. But maybe I step on his back and actually help the process. But yeah, Terry Rozier stinks. But the thing is, he always has. And I had the foresight to just read box scores and tell you that he's a very inefficient player, and the Miami Heat did not have this magic wand that they could just keep replicating this. Even Dion Waiters, we talked ourselves into him. He was a fitter Dion Waiters. He is a bad basketball player, presently being investigated for throwing a basketball game, or at least affecting his own props. I'm being told that he's a very bad basketball player, somehow even worse, but I am still effectively boycotting this team after that acquisition. I couldn't be happier knowing that this team is exactly what I thought it would be, and knowing that I don't have to waste any of my precious time watching it. Back to you, Dan.
Okay, thank you. But keep doing that because I'd like to go back to you to more analysis when you're more winded because I think this is funnier. Yes, I do love
Go
that,
back in
Chris.
30 seconds.
Yes.
You're so obsessed.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's the joke. Otherwise, it's less funny. As an audio experience, executive producer of this show, as an audio experience, a winded cast member trying to give points that are less good than they would normally be because it's hard to give takes when you're tired.
You better laugh when we finally nail that.
Fatigue
you say
makes
it's gonna be
cowards
funny.
of us all. And I will say that as soon as it becomes funny, I'll tell you. I'll let you know. But no one's done it right since we started it. Like, it's not that hard. You have to be tired and winded in order for it to work.
So it's not that the bit isn't working. It's that no one's done it right
That's
yet.
correct. That is absolutely right.
I do like our commitment to getting it right.
It's not the system, it's the players.
Right.
That's right.
It's not Dan's fault.
That's correct. It's not my system. I didn't create the system. Let's go back out to Mike Ryan to hear how much more he hates Terry Rozier.
You know, I'm going to take a victory lap on never liking this bit. I never thought it would be funny. And yet the person that is still resolute is the person that is the one that's sending people into this. But I can say wholeheartedly, this bit doesn't work out at all.
Disagree.
And I'm taking a victory lap, a winded one.
Trust the process.
Really winded.
You're
to
disrespecting
really
the
hammer
bit.
home the fact that I never thought this was going to be funny, and somehow I'm more right about this than I was on Terry Rozier. Oh, God. I'm so tired.
All right, let's get to this Mavs
Better?
sound. Yes, better. Thank you. That works better. Stay there, though, and keep running, and I'll come back to you in a second. In the interim, let's get to this Mavs sound here. First, let's get to the chanting involved, because this is not a chant I have heard very often where there are death threats, where it is that you've got a home security detail that is now required, Stugotz, because of everything that's happening in Dallas, where the curse of Luka has officially taken over because now multiple players are getting hurt. They've lost almost their entire front line except for Lively. Anthony Davis comes out, gives you a first half of 30 points, 9 for 13, and immediately gets hurt and ends up being out for a week. So let's play the sound that we have of the Mavs fans who are protesting. They are chanting a chant that I am not used to hearing near death threats. Let's hear that.
Bring him back! He's not back! Bring him back! He's not back! Bring him back! He's not back!
That's right. Bring him back. He's not fat.
Was that our listeners when I was let go? What was that?
I mean, he is fat. I mean
He's not. Chris?
No, he's fat.
Chris or Luka?
Luka. And Chris.
Bring him back. He's not fat.
Great chant.
It does rhyme.
That's right. And there are dozens of people holding up signs. And who's that guy on the right? What's he dressed as? What is he going for?
No idea.
Yeah. Are those goggles that he is wearing? Is he dressed like
he's a
a rooster?
I think he's a chicken of some sort.
He's a chicken.
Yeah.
Is it because the Mavs are chickens for trading Luka?
Yes. I mean, I don't know. I'm saying it like I know, but I don't know. It just seems it stands to reason.
Let's read the signs here. Judas, Benedict, Brutus, Nico. Lines have been crossed.
Oh, no. That's my favorite. Oh, boy. It's mysteriously vague. I love it.
Freeze that so that I can please read some more of those signs. Fire Nico, that's an obvious one. That's an easy one to write in your in your magic marker.
Dirk handed Luka the torch. Nico blew it out.
Let's go back to a sweaty Mike Ryan to check in and hear from Mike Ryan on how right he was about Terry Rozier.
So miscalculation on my part. I've recently lost some weight, so I haven't needed the nipple stickers as much, but I'm wearing a hockey jersey, and it is really chafing up my nipples right now. I've got these Swedish crowns on each one of them, and it's not a nice sight. But I will take another victory lap, though. I was told that I don't know ball because I said Anthony Davis is always injured. And everybody that has been watching the NBA since the Miami Heat acquired Terry Rozier told me he's actually pretty healthy. That's a bygone era. That's an old take. Stugotz, we were right. Anthony Davis, he can't stay healthy. Yeah. They traded Luka Doncic because they were worried about his fitness and traded for Anthony Davis in return. We were right about that, bud.
Yeah, I was right about that. I don't want to take a victory lap, though, because the
bit doesn't work. Bit doesn't work. All I have is chafed nipples, which I will not show on air.
Is that Tony on the left?
That is not Tony.
It is not. It looks like Tony, though.
Yeah, it does.
It's a good call by you.
Yeah, thank you.
So after the fans outside chanting, he's not fat, he's fat, bring him back, whatever that thing they were chanting.
Not that. That's not what they would.
So now we are in the arena, and this fan gets kicked out. First, what he has is a sign. It's harmless.
Benign.
Fire Nico.
Yep.
I mean, are you not allowed to do that? And then they're having a dance cam later in the game, and the same fan. This is a rookie move by whoever's producing this, because the guy with the sign, they show him later on the dance cam, and he mouths, "Fire Nico," and that was the last straw. And then you cut to moments later, him getting walked out while getting booed by the crowd. It was just not a great look for the Mavericks ownership.
Do you guys realize that so much happened over the weekend in sports that we glossed over without even thinking about it? The fact that, and this doesn't happen a lot in the NBA, John Morant's dad got kicked out of a game. Got kicked out of a game for complaining about the officiating and doing so, I'm going to say benignly, even though he was claiming that the game was fixed. Like, I guess that's not benign when you've got the father of NBA royalty saying it about your officiating.
But Fire Nico is, right? Like, those fans do not deserve to be thrown out of a game for being fans. They're not happy with the move that Nico made. They took a 25-year-old generational talent who took them to the finals a year ago, and they traded him to the LA Lakers. Why would fans be okay with that when you factor in that Anthony Davis gave you the full Anthony Davis experience? Best player in the world for a half, and he gets hurt walking, and he's out for 8 weeks. I mean, that is Anthony Davis in a nutshell. And why can't fans walk in to their place of work where they're paying their good hard-earned money and say, hey, I want to fire the GM without getting thrown out by the organization? Terrible job by the Mavericks. Terrible.
He ain't wrong. I mean, you spend money for a ticket, you should be able to express yourself. Right?
Fire Nico was benign.
Well,
I mean,
it's not exactly benign.
But Greg, so wasn't there a part of the story where Mark Cuban is cursing back at those fans, telling them to sit the bleep down? Like, what are the Mavericks doing? What are they doing to their fans who care so much that they would bring a lame, ridiculous sign into the arena to say, fire the GM? Those are fans that care. Those are fans that you want to be your fans.
Yeah. I particularly enjoy the chant, they'll bring him back, as if there's any mechanism by which that could happen or would happen.
Like Nico's
It's
you know
hilarious.
what? They bring up a good
They're
point.
right. I'm going to get him
Let's
back.
get him back.
Here's Anthony Davis. He's hurt. He's out for 8 weeks.
Yes,
Can I have Luka back?
We've changed our mind about that deal. Hello, Los Angeles.
Hello?
Bring him back.
Do you think they would? If they had an opportunity, the league said, you know what? Wow. It's not fair. You can undo it. Do you think they would?
A take back? We're giving them a take back.
You think they
I think they would.
underestimated the reaction? You
Yes.
think?
Oh, I do.
Wait, so
yeah.
the Lakers don't have a say in this? It's just the Mavs?
If you got them all on truth serum,
Right.
you never have to experience what you. We'll just go back to 2 weeks ago, pal. You never have to do this. They would absolutely hit that button in a second.
But that would suggest, though, that they thought or they didn't know what the backlash would be. And I've got to assume that they would know what the backlash would be, that they would know almost better than us what the backlash would be as people who know who their customers are, as people who know what he means to that region, as people who are more emotionally invested in the result than we are.
New ownership group. They don't have their finger on that pulse the way that Mark Cuban did. We know for a fact Mark Cuban would have never done this.
If Anthony Davis doesn't get hurt, are they still protesting outside?
I think even if Anthony Davis stays healthy, they still go back because they totally miscalculated this reaction from their fan base.
Does Pelinka get to wear his jacket to another event, or was that just the event for that jacket?
Ron McGill joins us now, as he has for many weeks, many years.
Many years, yes.
Now, many weeks regularly, but he's missed some recently. And
busy guy.
Our audience gets mad when they don't get their fix of Ron McGill. I will tell the people, and I can't give you total details right now, but Ron is ready very soon to, for our audience only, unretire the most popular thing he's done in his zoo career, which is Sex and the Animals, his Sex and the Animals presentation. He's going to do it for our fans shortly. We will have more news on that front in a while, but I want to play some videos here for Ron. Welcome, Ron. Thank you for being on with us. I want to show you first here a dog that is retaliating here, evidently, for being hit with a snowball. Can we play, please, this video for Ron McGill and have him do a little bit of play-by-play for us?
Oh, yeah? You're going to give me the snowball? Take this. How about that?
Okay, I thought that
Solid.
video would be a lot better. I think that over the course of the week, people who are gathering these things, I think what they should put at the top is video that's slightly better than that allows us to have Ron McGill do some stuff with the videos that is more entertaining than that. Let's go to a sleeping... I want to know what animal this is, because this is not an animal I am very familiar with. Does anyone in here know what this animal is? Are you guys familiar with this animal that is being awakened here by...
it's a baby capybara.
Yes, it looks a bit like a guinea pig. Are you guys familiar with what it is that this is?
It's the world's largest rodent, except that's a baby. And that's a grackle that's trying to harass it. And it's being annoying, like many birds can be sometimes. But that's a baby capybara, which is really cool. It's the world's largest rodent, found in, tropical America, and actually eaten by many people because they consider it a delicacy.
And when you say the world's largest rodent, how large do they get?
A big adult, over 50 pounds.
Wow.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you believe there is such a thing as a 50-pound rodent? Yes or no? I feel like I've seen those in New York. What happened? No, I'm not
You're
even
talking
kidding.
about the people.
I'm not even kidding. No, I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about what I see at 4 a.m. When the rodents know there aren't people in the streets of New York, and I'm looking down the street, and the shadow seems like a horse of some sort, and it's just a giant rat.
4 a.m. in New York. Huh,
That's right. That's right. 4 a.m. in New York. That's the only time they come out. That is, you will not see them at another time, not the 50-pound ones.
I think the point is, what are you doing out at 4 a.m. in New York?
I think everybody knows. I think everybody knows.
Valid question.
Yes. Is it?
Didn't answer.
I think you all know. What would you guess?
I don't know. You've been swimming in the Hudson to
Yes,
avoid
My
the
guess is
traffic?
that he just.
Yes, that's
My guess is that he just doesn't sleep, because I get texts from him and emails from him at 3:45 a.m.
Same.
I don't know what the.
Yeah, he's a vampire, Le Batard.
Yeah.
I can't prove that, but somebody who doesn't sleep, keeps odd hours, up at 4 a.m. looking at 50-pound, rodents. I mean,
a dampire.
That's vampire behavior. A dampire. I like it.
The most famous vampire there is
Patino.
12-1 in the Big East. And when they asked him the other day, what would you have said to us if we had told you you'd beat 12-1 in the Big East? His answer is, how'd we lose the bleeping one? He's back, baby.
Oh, he is back.
I want him here in Coral Gables.
He is
Solid guard play. Don't be surprised if the Johnnies find themselves in the Elite Eight.
Yeah. Let's look at this bird here. You guys tell me what the hell this is, because this is also something I have not seen, Ron. Have you ever seen?
It's a frogmouth.
A what?
It's called a frogmouth.
Show off.
See how it opens its mouth? The beak is actually very small. The keratin part of the beak is very small. And they blend in with trees really well. That's not a good example because he's on a fence post right there. But they just will stay totally still on the top of a tree or a fence post, something like that, and they look like a piece of wood. They're fantastic. They feed primarily on insects. They're harmless. They can't do any harm to you, but they open their mouths when they're threatened like that, and they tend to make people think twice before you get much closer.
How rare are they? Have you seen one of those? Have you've seen those in the wild?
I have, yeah. It's just most people don't see them because they blend in with their surroundings very well. This guy's really standing out because he's not in the best spot to use his camouflage. But like I say, they're primarily nocturnal. They're insect eaters. They open their mouths widely like that to catch flying insects as they're flying through the air.
That looks like something that a cartoonist would draw.
Well, let me tell you something. You look at some of these animals. I don't know if you guys saw that video. I'm surprised you haven't pulled it up yet, of that deep sea anglerfish that they found. They videotaped. It was on the news. It was unbelievable. This thing looks like a drawing out of your worst nightmare, and it's a living, breathing thing on this planet. Normally found thousands of feet below the Earth ocean surface, but they got some incredible video of one that had come up to the surface and was swimming around. You guys need to find that and look at it and tell me if it doesn't look like something that was drawn by some kid who's having a massive nightmare.
Can you tell us how rare, strange this is? There is a shark here, and you're always telling us that that sharks aren't as dangerous as they're made out to be by people who fear sharks. But what is happening here with an aquarium water dancer's head and a shark?
Aquarium water dancer's head. Oh, yeah.
Is
I
this
saw
a
the
shark?
video. But that's not a shark. First of all, that's not a shark.
What is that?
That's a fine.
I don't know exactly what it is. These days I can't even tell whether the stuff is AI or not. But I can tell you that's not a shark, because a shark grabs somebody's head like that, and there'll be a lot of blood coming out. So that's not what that was. Looks like it might have been some type of grouper, some type of Goliath group or something like that. But I don't actually know. To be that size, yeah, it needs to be something like a Goliath grouper. And I'm just actually thinking that that's AI, guys. I don't believe that video.
No, you don't think the video is real? I've seen it in action. It was definitely not a shark, but otherwise.
No, I saw the video in action too. But Mike, man, I've seen some videos done by AI these days that are just, even I, as quote unquote an expert of wildlife, will look at it and go, God, what is that? I mean, is that real? And then I've got someone admit to me, no, it's AI. We did it in AI. I go, man, this stuff is really good. So, I don't know what to tell you guys anymore. That I don't know whether that's real or not. It's certainly not a shark. If it's anything, it's like a Goliath group or something like that. But I've never. Trust me, if a fish took in a woman's head like that, she would not be swimming away like she did like that.
Ron, you know my stance on sharks. Hate the damn things. Think they're bad.
Mike,
They're awful.
You got to stop perpetuating that myth about sharks. I just got back from the Galapagos Islands. I was swimming and was surrounded by about 20 hammerheads just circling above, not doing anything. Okay. I was in pure awe of watching this, looking up and seeing these rays of sunlight come through these sharks as they just quietly circled around. It was actually peaceful. It was like a Zen moment for me.
Ron, it only takes being wrong once when it comes to sharks. Yeah. So I hope for your sake you're not. But I hate the damn things.
But Mike, it'd be the same thing with a dog.
No. No.
Dogs are great. Mike.
Dogs are precious.
Yeah.
Dogs. When a dog's in the water, the lifeguard doesn't yell "dog."
Yeah.
That's how I know I'm all right. Okay.
Everyone out.
Yeah. When the dog's in water, everyone takes their cameras out.
Okay.
When there's a shark in the water, they yell "shark." That's not a good sign. Okay.
Touché, Mike.
It's not. It's not. It's not. Look, put it on the poll. If you're an animal and they yell your name out loud, are you dangerous?
I would not purposely go swimming with a shark, okay? But because you see one is not a reason to panic, is what I'm saying.
Okay. What if I see a great white? Because my question is, they're tagging massive great whites off the coast of Florida near Jacksonville. All of a sudden, we got orcas down here. Are they chasing food? Are we now living in a state where we got orcas and great white sharks just off our coast? I don't like this one bit.
Okay, Mike. Okay, let me put this in perspective for you. Yeah, they're tracking all these great whites up and down the Florida coast. When was the last time you heard of a great white shark bite up or down the Florida coast? And think about the thousands of people that are swimming on the beaches up and down the Florida coast. We've already proven that these great whites are swimming up and down the Florida coast, and yet, whoa, there's no great white shark attack on the Florida coast. Now, on the other hand, how many people are driving cars? How many people are walking around? How many people are killed by cars every day?
Oh, Ron, I'm not wrong here. I'm just early.
If there was a shark in the ocean, if there was a car in the ocean, I would yell car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Car.
Yeah.
Really, Cody, that's your contribution, Chris?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Ron.
No.
Hold on.
Okay. No way.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes for adding nothing.
For who? Ron's the guest. He can't go.
It would be jarring if there was a car in the ocean.
Car.
Yeah.
Be carring.
Hey, there we go.
Ron, if you could lie to the guests of Zoo Miami and you have like an animal there via AI, like you have an exhibit and the animal's not really there, but it's presented in a way in which it seems as though the animal's actually there. People come from around the world to come see this AI animal. What animal would you have on display?
Thylacine.
A who?
A thylacine.
What's that?
Thylacine, I believe.
What is that?
It's a carnivorous marsupial that became extinct, I think, in the mid-1900s, early 1900s. It's got like a tiger striped back. It's got the head of like a coyote. It was an incredible animal until it was hunted to oblivion, but they still believe that there may be some existing in the wild of Australia and New Zealand. And I think if someone were to find one, it would be like incredible. That would be a believable thing. Like if I said, "Oh, we've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex here," well, that would be, but people are going, "You don't have a Tyrannosaurus." But they said, "Hey, we found a thylacine," and because it's kind of been a mysterious thing, whether it's still alive or not. The last one was seen in the 1930s or 40s. That would be kind of cool, right?
I mean, this thylacine seems very fakeable. Like you just paint stripes on a dog. Like look at that thing. Anyone can be a thylacine now. Dinosaurs.
I don't like that thing one bit.
Right? Yeah,
Have
you
a
can
mayo
fake
with
that.
Oh,
Get
looks
Jesse
vicious.
over there. Jesse, our makeup artist, could go over there and give you 10,000 thylacines if that's what you want, Ron. Jeez, boring.
It's not that impressive, actually, to look at
See?
visually. And Ron is furious, and he's.
Why does he come back?
Why do you
chewing
guys
on
have
his
koalas?
tongue.
All they do is sleep all day. I mean, give me something with a little pizzazz. Put on a show. You know what I mean? If you're going to encaptivate these animals, put them behind a glass, have them do something.
Is that a word? Encaptivate?
I don't know. You're the one doing it, not me. I'm just trying to fund the animals and the arts, and we're just watching koalas sleep all day and give people, what is it, syphilis they give people, Ron?
No, it's chlamydia,
Oh.
and they don't give it to people. That's what kills them. They don't give it to people unless you're doing really wrong stuff with koalas.
Sex and the Animals. He's bringing it out of
Sex with the
retirement
animals.
in a couple of months. It's Sex and the Animals. It's not sex
Fine.
with the
Oh,
animals.
yeah.
That's
Sex
right.
with the animals. That with is dangerous. It's
It's
and.
illegal in the state of
Yes,
Florida, I think.
I think it's illegal in all the states, isn't it?
No, unfortunately, it's not.
It's not?
No, it's not illegal in all the states.
He's researched this.
What?
Really?
Sex with
Yes.
animals
Get
is
outta
not-
here.
Wait a minute.
It should be.
What states are we talking
What
here?
are the
Yeah.
states that are? Let's move
Nope.
there. Let's
Nope.
move the show.
Valentine's Day is right around
Guys,
the corner.
research it. You will see
Wow.
that
I'm looking it up.
bestiality is actually not illegal in a couple of states.
Wow.
Uh,
All right, Illinois.
Baby.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is bestiality illegal in all the states?
As of June 2021, Hawaii, New Mexico, West Virginia, and Wyoming did
Yeah.
not have laws against bestiality.
Okay, so Ron, let's say you go to Wyoming. It's Valentine's Day.
Hawaii is shocking.
Okay,
by the
no,
way.
guys.
What animal are we looking at there, Ronnie?
Oh God, I don't know how we go down this rabbit hole. Oh, that's a wrong term.
That's not a rabbit hole. That is not. We don't
maybe
need
it
to go
is.
down that
Maybe
hole.
it is.
Hey.
Well, how's your rabbit?
Oh, jeez. Listen, guys, the bottom line is, though, in those states, though, bestiality, as it's said, is illegal. What is it can be legal. What is illegal, and the
You're
way they get
rattled.
your
You're rattled since you went down that rabbit hole and realized that that's not the phrase you
fact
should
is,
be using.
Ron, if you may, let me try this a different way. Which animal would you fuck?
He's never subtle.
Yeah, how many-
Let's
you know
play
how many
this.
kids
You
write
don't
me
answer
on this
that.
show?
Don't
You know how
answer
many
it.
kids write me and you come out with that?
No,
Come on,
don't
you
answer
got-
that. You know what? Let's give it.
I was trying a different
He
way.
brought it up, in
No,
fairness.
let's do
He
it.
brought it up. I didn't bring it up. He brought it up.
I didn't bring anything
Minor
up.
penalty, 2 minutes for adding
West Virginia,
nothing.
Wyoming, New Mexico, Hawaii.
You guys, listen to this thing.
One more video for Ron. Let's
Thank you, Dan.
take a look at this. Is on a coast here, and this is not something that I've seen before, where there is a camel
Camels.
that appears
Camels taking a dip
in the ocean, though, right? This is
Yeah.
like, what is that? How rare is that?
It's not rare if the camel's hot. I mean, it's just a matter of helping thermoregulate its body temperature. You know, the same reason we would go into the ocean. Camels will do it if the ocean is available to them. Now, most camels are not in an area where they're by the coast, by the ocean. But this camel is probably one of the, a working animal, and was brought down there by his partner there, and given the opportunity to cool off. It's a great option, just like it is with people.
Might this
Water
be
is a cooling factor.
Might this be a camel with a shy bladder? And he's just like, I'm embarrassed to pee, so I'm gonna go and then dip in the water and just. You ever
Is that
pee
what
in
you
the
do,
water?
Chris? Is that what you do?
I've done it at the beach.
Okay. All right, I'm learning a lot more than I care to learn on this.
Put it on the
particular
poll,
segment.
please, Juju. Do you pee in the ocean at Le Batard Show? And given everything that we've just been talking about, I just want to ask a follow-up. Do you think that camel is hot?
Yeah, that camel was definitely warm, and it was just cooling off. It's
But
just
hot?
cooling, just like people
But
do.
look at those curves, Ron.
Yeah, the humps.
Oh, okay, I just got it. I'm
Lovely
sorry, I went over
lady
my head because I'm not as
So,
far
check
down
it
in
out.
the gutter as you guys are.
Humping it.
Was that Greg going in there?
Yes, it
That's
is.
my
That is-
contribution.
That is.
Oh,
That is.
jeez.
It's
That
a
lack
good
of subtlety
contribution.
was funny.
Thank you. Well, yeah, yes, it's more subtle than what Stugotz did. That's correct.
They do spit a lot.
Thank you, Ron. Yes, that's right. Good seeing you.
I apologize to the great listeners who send me those wonderful emails about how they learned so much in this segment. I apologize.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Original Hawk Tua.
See you later.
It's a zebra.
Bye.
Ron, good talking to you. Again, I tell the people, please support his substantive endowment.